お箸を使ってください. If you can't tell why that just sounded off, you're not alone. Pitch accent is often overlooked by Japanese learners. Today's video is all about pattern A words like tsukau from this sentence. Let's jump right in. Hey guys, welcome to Monochrome Japanese, a peaceful space where you can focus on your Japanese study. I'm your host, Shiho. In today's video, we're going to dive a little deeper into pattern A pitch accent, as defined in our fundamentals video. I'll put the link in the description below, and I recommend watching it first. By now, you should already know what pattern A is, and why you see a circled or squared number 0 next to pattern A words in textbooks and dictionaries. It simply means that the pitch doesn't drop after any mora of the word. If you're not familiar with the concept of mora, the fundamentals video will also help. Well, it might seem like this implies that all the moras have a high tone for pattern A words, since the pitch doesn't drop at all. But if you remember the two core rules of Japanese pitch accent introduced in the fundamentals video, you'll see why this isn't entirely true. According to rule number 1, the first two moras always have different pitches. If the pitch doesn't drop at all, the first mora has to be low, so that the pitch stays high from the second mora onward. That's why pattern A looks like this for words that have 4 moras or more. This for 3 mora words. And this for 2 mora words. Still remember these examples from the fundamentals video? Mizu, kiru, watashi, kieru, minamoto. Of course, there are many more pattern A words in Japanese. Pattern A actually has an official name in Japanese, which is heibangata. But it can sometimes be misleading, as it literally means flat, while it's apparently not completely flat. Now, how about pattern A words that only have 1 mora? Should it be high or low? How would you read this phrase? If you look it up in the dictionary, you'll see a number 0 next to it, indicating that this word is a pattern A, meaning the pitch doesn't drop at all. But wait, what do you mean by it doesn't drop? You might wonder. It only has 1 mora. Do you mean it's a high tone, so that it doesn't drop? Well, this is actually a situation where the rule number 1 of Japanese pitch accent still applies. Again, the first 2 moras always have different pitches. For a single mora word, usually a noun in modern Japanese, if it had a high tone, the following particle would have to be low, making that 1 mora the last high-pitched mora of the word. Guess what? This also makes it a pattern B word, right? This tells us, for a single mora pattern A word, the mora has to be low, making the following particle high. So, it should be kininaru, not kininaru. Notice how the latter makes the word sound like a pattern B word, which happens to mean tree in Japanese. Well, 気になる might also make sense in other contexts. But you've got the point. Other common single-mora pattern A words include さ、は、い as in 差がある、葉が落ちた、胃が痛い。Now let's look at pattern A words with two moras or more. But as the pitch accent of some parts of speech in Japanese, such as adverbs, can be very diverse, we're going to focus on nouns, verbs, and adjectives for the purpose of this series of video. First off, nouns. Do you remember these sentences from the fundamentals video? 花がきれいだ。花がきれいだ。If you recall, the word nose is a pattern A word, so the particle that follows it has a high tone, which is pretty much the point for pattern A nouns. Here are some more examples. 水をまく、道を探す、薬を飲む、野菜が体にいい、言い訳をする、スタジオに行く。You see? There are some pattern A verbs already. Okay, let's move on to verbs. Just like nouns, there are also many frequently used pattern A verbs in Japanese. I actually already gave an example at the very beginning of this video, which is the word use in this sentence. I read it as お箸を使ってください. And I said it sounded off, right? Now, can you guess why it sounded off? Yes, the word use in Japanese is a pattern A verb, which sounds like 使う, and its te form also follows pattern A. So it should be 使ってください, not 使ってください. Notice the difference? The same applies to the ta form. 使った, not 使った. More examples of pattern A verbs are 行く、言う、聞く、笑う、洗う、送る、違う、負ける、借りる、進む、捨てる、与える、忘れる、当てる、浴びる、入れる。You can also try turning them into te form and ta form, like 笑って and 笑った or 忘れて and 忘れた. Now I think it's a good timing for us to note this. I believe the vast majority of us start learning Japanese verbs from Masu form, also known as the polite form. But did you know that the Masu form is always pattern C, with ma being the last high-pitched mora? For example, 使う becomes 使います or 使いました. If this doesn't sound like a dramatic difference for pattern A verbs, think about pattern B. For example, 書く becomes 書きます or 書きました. And 帰る becomes 帰ります or 帰りました. In other words, the Masu form sort of cancels or hides the original pitch accent of a verb, which does have a huge impact on the pitch accent of other forms of that verb. For example, the potential form of the pattern A verb, iku, is ikeru, which is also pattern A. But the potential form of the pattern B verb, kaku, is kakeru, which becomes pattern C. Another example would be the negative form. Iku becomes ikanai, which is also pattern A. But taberu becomes tabenai, which also follows its original pattern. Well, this is just the tip of an iceberg in terms of how complicated the pitch accent of verbs and their conjugational forms can get. In the future, I will also create videos focusing on that. And it's probably going to be a series. So if you don't want to miss those videos, you know what's the best thing to do. And finally, adjectives. As we all know that there are two types of adjectives in Japanese, e-adjectives and na-adjectives, and they work differently in sentences. As na-adjectives work very similarly to nouns, we don't have to worry about them for now. On the other hand, as e-adjectives can also be conjugated in Japanese, we might not have the luxury to get detailed on the pitch accent of all the different forms today. But I think for our purpose of this video, it's best for us to know that although most of the e-adjectives are pattern C words, there are still some, not too many, pattern A ones. In modern Japanese, when these e-adjectives are modifying nouns, they're always pattern A. Some commonly used ones are akai, kiiroi, kurai, atsui, usui, omoi, karui, katai, toi, marui. If we add a noun to some of them, they sound like this. Akai boushi, kurai heya, katai hyōgen, marui kao. Alright, let's recap today's video with a short quiz. I'll read some sentences with intentional mistakes on pattern A words. Your job is to find out where I failed. After my reading, feel free to pause the video if you need more time, or rewind to replay. Let's start with nouns. 大きな差がある。胃が痛いから薬を飲まないと。スタジオに行かなきゃ。Okay, it's the last one. I said stadio, but it's stadio. Stadio ni ikanakia. Now verbs. 手を洗ってください。ごめん、忘れちゃった。シャワーを浴びたら気持ちが良くなってきた。It's the second one, right? I said 忘れちゃった but it's 忘れちゃった For this one, I'd encourage you to leave a comment below and explain why it's 忘れちゃった And finally, adjectives. 黄色い線までお下がりください。今日は暑いから薄いジャケットを着ようか。遠いところには行かない。 Yes, the last one, where I said 遠い, but it's 遠い. 遠いところには行かない. Alright, that's all for today's video. I hope you found it useful. Oh, before I go, there's one more thing. Well, some of you have probably already noticed this, but just in case. I just want to share some thoughts about the official name of pattern A pitch accent, heibangata. When I said it can sometimes be misleading, as it literally means flat, but it's not completely so, I didn't mean that this is a bad name. On the contrary, I think it's a very good name. Very inspiring for Japanese pitch accent learners. At least it should be. Because the pitch accent of Japanese is all about whether the pitch drops or not. And if it does, from where? It doesn't really matter how it starts, as long as the first two moras are different in pitch. So I think the word flat has indeed caught the essence of this specific pitch accent pattern, which is no drop, hence flat. As for the low-high start, this is actually a shared attribute with pattern C and D, because the pitch also doesn't drop at least or yet on the second mora in these patterns. Only pattern B has a high-low start, as all the moras have a low tone except the first one. I'll see you in the video about pattern B. Alright, this is the real end of today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, feel free to subscribe to my channel and share my videos with anyone you know who's learning Japanese. Thank you so much for watching. See you soon.